My name is Francisco Esqueda. I'm a software engineer for CA Technologies. I work in their mainframe software engineering department, and we're hiring for the associate software engineering program.
What advice would you give to a potential hire?
Okay, so there are a couple of things of advice that I would give to a potential hire. Number one, if you know the company that you're interviewing with, definitely do your research beforehand. Google the company, go to their website, check out what their business is all about, what kind of products they work in, what kind of technologies, and number one, make sure that it's something that you want to do, where you want to take your career. Number two, get as much information as possible. Get to know the employer, so that way when an employer asks you, and usually sometimes it's the first question, oh hey, have you ever heard of our company? Then you can tell them. And not only that, but if you have a good background on what they work on, once they ask you questions, you can sort of give examples and lead on to things that they work on. And it sort of creates a relationship and a connection that's a lot better and probably puts you in a better position in terms of an employer. Not only that, but just doing your homework beforehand, just like any other assignment, it's just giving you a leg up. So that's the number one thing. Number two, I would say, try to sort of connect with the employer as much as you can. Sometimes they'll try to ask like really either tough technical questions or questions that are difficult. Don't be afraid to sort of say, hey, I might not know the answer, but I've worked on this or that or anything like that. Because a lot of times when you get a question with interviewers, you'll ask them a question that they might not necessarily know the answer.
What is a typical technical question asked during one of your interviews?
So it depends on the background of whoever the candidate is. I usually try to look at the resume and try to look at different languages that they've worked on or different programming projects or different technologies that I've worked on. It's sort of, I usually try to be very fair with asking them something that they have background on. So let's say you have Java and C background on your resume, which is something that's very common amongst most of the computer science graduates. I usually try to ask the question, hey, what are the differences between the programming languages? How do they handle memory? How are they compiled? How do they run in different machines? So just different questions that I sort of know the answers to and I've looked up beforehand, but at the same time I know that despite the fact that the students have worked on both languages, they have not necessarily pointed out the differences. So it sort of pushes them to think through the question, So they've worked on both languages, and if they sort of freeze, I try to point them in the right direction, and then I realize they go through the thought process and they say, oh, hey, you're right, C++ has to be compiled and specific to a certain machine, and Java on the other hand, creates a virtual machine and can run on any platform. And as I see that they're thinking through the answer and that they're sort of formulating in their own head, I see that they actually have command of the language and the technology that they've worked on, as opposed to just sort of memorizing an answer and just sort of slurring it right back at me. So they might try to fumble through the answer, and it just sort of makes you look bad, but you're really just trying to answer the question. So I would say definitely just tell the employer, hey, I've never heard of this, but I've worked on this or that or anything